Live. Okay, all right. According to YouTube, I am live. Good to get confirmation of my own suspicions. So let me send out the notification that we're live. Sending that out to all the ethics and critical thinking students. Okay, for 1,000 points, name not only the tune that I am whistling, but in what detective program it features prominently in. It's kind of an indication that the detective is on the trail of the murderer. The detective is able to, is on the scent of the murder suspect. Say he whistles this tune. Name the tune and name the show that it features in. Okay. Let's see here. Is that going to give the lead? Say something. Yeah, say something to someone. Okay. In YouTube. Okay. Okay, that takes care of it through my Gmail account. Now I just need to do it through my bulletin email address, and I'll be ready for you guys. Chat live now. Here with thinking class. Up there. Now the ethics class. Put that right there. Copy. Come on. There we go. See, I bet you could guess the tune, but it may be only people, or maybe likely only people of a certain age who will be able to guess the show that it's featured in, where the detective is on the case of the murderer. Okay. Okay, so that should have gone out. All right, so do we have anyone here yet? There we go. Hello there, Kenneth. I hope you're enjoying. I hope you enjoyed the spring break. Now that the spring break is in the past tense, welcome to the chat, Kenneth. I don't want to take advantage of the fact that say you're one of the older students in the class, but can you name the tune and can you name the TV program where it was featured prominently? I say this is the tune the detective would whistle when he was on the trail of the murder suspect. All right, Mohammed is here. Excellent. Hello, Mohammed. Hello there, Tim. Hello. I hope you gentlemen had yourselves an enjoyable, relaxing spring break. I got something hanging off my beard here. Oh, it's a part of my beard that's hanging off my beard. Kenneth, Bing, Bing, you got it, Kenneth. Columbo, he's got it. Yeah, that was this old man. Say that was a tune that Columbo would whistle every time that he was on the trail of the murder suspect. And it's pretty ominous when he does it because I have my theories about Columbo. Okay. Esmeralda says hello. Hello, Esmeralda. Hello, Alex. Hello there, Kevin. Good afternoon to you too. So how's everyone doing? How was your spring break? Spent largely in quarantine, I'm sure, but was it still all right? Were you able to have yourself say a nice spring break, a nice holy week? How was it for you guys? Good job, Kenneth. Yeah, I love Columbo. He is one of my top four television detectives. Maybe top five. Let's do top five. Top five television detectives. Monk, and this is not going in any particular order. Monk, Columbo, Rumpole the Bailey, Detective Gorin from Law and Order: Criminal Intent, and Inspector Morse. Okay. Alex says it was not long enough. Bridget says, "Wish it was sunny more." Like, oh yeah, this is a sunny day compared to how it was over the break. It was pretty wet and rainy. How am I doing? I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. It was a nice relaxing break for me too. Apart from grading your papers, I spent it mostly just working on my own projects, which is really the best way to keep your wits about you in this situation we're doing right now. Let me see if I can get my hair looking a little bit more presentable. There we go. Yeah, if you've got little projects, if you build model cars, if you've got a model railroad set, boy, would it be great if I had myself a model railroad set. That would be fantastic. But with these stimulus checks we may be getting, maybe I'll get myself a nice Lionel train set. My first since I was maybe 10 years old. That'll be great. Um, Kenneth, don't worry about it. Say, you with age comes experience, and I don't think there's anything on TV today comparable to the quality of Columbo. So you've got so much to share with, say, the current crop of youngsters whose idea of good TV is maybe based on that horrible Sherlock program. Tim said it was a nice break for everything. I'm very glad of that. Janet says, "Good afternoon." Well, it's a nice break for everything, just as long as you don't follow the news. And what I've been following lately, not only the what's going on, say with in here in America, but also say worldwide. Worldwide, how are they handling the pandemic over here? And I'm especially concerned with how things are going in Sweden, because Sweden is famous right now for bucking the trend of mandating uh, say business closures, say the closing of parks, of restaurants, of bars, and whatnot, and they just made quarantining and social distancing more of a matter of personal choice. And their reasoning for this is that, and there is one thing to this, but there's also many things against it. The one thing to it is that they're quite right. We probably will, now we don't know for certain, but we probably will get a second wave of the COVID-19 virus sometime in the near future. So and when it comes back, it for the people who already have been compromised by it, it might be even worse by it. So they're saying we're not locking things down. Um, we're not doing uh, the business closures and so forth, so that we can get herd immunity. That we can get enough people exposed to it, so that by the time it comes around again, it will not be so deadly. Here's the problem with that. The problem with that is that this is not like things that we've experienced before. This is a new virus. This is a novel virus. This is a mutation. We don't yet have adequate means of treating it yet. We have, say, some experimental treatments, but right now they're only experimental. We don't have any vaccines or anything like that. Another problem is that it is already beginning to really affect Sweden and affect primarily, say, high concentrations of older people. So, like in old folks' homes, care homes, rest homes, and so forth. You remember, say, in the last chat, the last live stream we had, we were talking about, say, taking care of the elderly and the sick. Well, they're the ones right now at the highest risk in Sweden. And say it's also really strongly affecting, say, high concentrated immigrant populations in Sweden. So this is something that they're not factoring in right here. That the people who will be the most affected by it are, say, the people living in very densely populated, say, old folks' homes, rest centers, and so forth, and also, say, the people living in, say, very densely populated, low-income housing that are largely immigrants, largely from Africa. They say, there's a large Somali population in Sweden, and they're already being adversely affected by it. And so here's the thing about the Swedes is that they pride themselves on being a very progressive and being a very rational and forward-thinking country, but they also have their own problems. Every country has their own problems. And sometimes I think it's a mistake to say, well, all we have to do is just copy the way things are being done in other countries. Seems to be working there. Let's move it over here. The thing is, say other countries have different situations, different environments, different problems. And one of the problems right now in Sweden is that there is, say, um, overt racism and just as bad racial indifference. And so, if you have a population of people who do not present themselves as being Swedish in the conventional way of looking Swedish, say they are somewhat discounted as being relevant, as being people kind of like, worth saving or worth kind of like putting measures in place to help out. The Somali people in Sweden have been largely helping themselves. They've been largely kind of like, keeping a watch on themselves, making sure that there are sanitizing liquids, that they, hand sanitizer and so forth, and they've been giving them to themselves because no one in the government has been giving them to help them out. And the thing is to say that if you ignore this population, if you are indifferent to them, it's not like they are just going to die out on their own. They're going to affect you eventually because these are the people working in those bars and restaurants. These are the people doing the jobs that that normally goes to people fresh out off the boat in their countries, and so they're going to start affecting, say, the normal, the typical Swedish population, of white Swedes. And now we're starting to see the effects of it. That while Sweden is a small country, and so it's going to have a much lower amount of deaths than here in the United States, say they have a higher percentage of deaths than a small country like Sweden should have. And so they're really kind of like, reconsidering this experiment of theirs, which I think was ill-advised to begin with, and really pointed to a lot of problems, say, in Sweden and in a lot of northern European countries that have, say, high immigrant populations that are not quite regarded as being fully this or that. Okay. All right. So we got some more people in here. Let's see. You're right about television now. Thank you. Thank you, Kenneth. Yeah. Yeah. Are there any good shows on right now? Are there any good programs worth following? Yeah, I don't know any. So if you guys know any good shows that are happening right now, let me know. The only thing that I know is happening right now are the new Star Trek programs, which I don't like at all. I am a big fan of the Star Trek series, from the original series up to Voyager. So we're talking, at the end of the '90s. At the end of the '90s, I say Star Trek ended, and that's not a bad thing. I don't need programs to keep going on indefinitely. Move on to something new. But if you move on to something new, do it do it well. What we have right now is, instead of calling it Star Trek, it might as well be a new series, but I don't even think it's that good of a new series. Okay. All right. So we're still live. We don't seem to be, as yet, fingers crossed, having the connection problems that we had before. Gabriel says Agents. Oh, I can always count on Gabriel to give some good recommendations. Agents of Shield on Netflix is going to be last season this summer. Oh, hi, Professor. By the way, hello to you too, Gabriel. Welcome to the chat. Okay, so we'll get into discussing and say what's going on for ethics and critical thinking. But if you have any kind of like programs to recommend, or here's another thing too. If you have any hobbies or projects that you want to recommend to people to help get themselves through say through quarantine, through what will likely be say another month of it, let us know. Post it here in the chat, and I'll read it off. Okay, so um, what I'm going to be doing today, because remember, we pushed back the midterm. Midterm was going to be, say, I don't remember, on the second or something like that. But I said we're going to have the midterm after the break. So I'm going to be posting the midterm today. Say, after I post, say, today's lectures, the lecture notes, along with the videos for the lecture notes, which, by the way, will be short. I will then be posting the midterm. I'll be sending out the midterm to everyone, and I will be posting it to Canvas. And when did I say that the midterm will be due? Let me look that up right here. Okay, that's the midterm study guide. Okay, so the midterm is going to be due April 18th. So you would be emailing me the answers and your essay responses no later than 11:55 p.m. April 18th. So I'll be sending out reminders about this. It will the instructions that I had on the study guide will also be included on the midterm itself. Okay, but if anyone has any questions at all about how to do the midterm, let me know. Let me know. Also, as usual, I have to watch out for how I write things, and I don't write, I think, in the clearest sort of way. I try my best, but it's always good to get feedback on this because I still don't think I'm there yet when it comes to kind of like communicating well with other people. So this is what I'm getting to. So if you read my midterm questions and they don't make any sense to you, if they're written in a confusing, convoluted, vague, or just kind of like an inappropriately complex way, let me know, and I'll try to re-articulate the question. I can't give you the answer, but I can do my best to make the question clearer. So when you get the midterm, you can send me questions. You can send me questions and I will respond to them, but they can't be responses that will give you the answers. They can maybe help you better understand the question, which in turn maybe better point out what the likely answer is through the re-explanation, but I can't give you the answers. Naturally, that's understandable. Okay. Muhammad says that Tiger King on Netflix was binge worthy. Okay. Let me know if you think, because this is why I have not watched Tiger King yet. Tiger King, of course, seems to be kind of like the show of the moment right now, the show that everyone is talking about. It is this month's Stranger Things. So here are my concerns about Tiger Kings. Number one, I love cats. I love cats very much, large and small, domestic cats and big cats, feral cats, wild cats. I love all cats. I don't like seeing cats in danger. I don't like seeing cats in pain. So can you tell me whether there are any moments in Tiger King where you see cats suffering or in danger or generally looking like they would rather be someplace else? Because I don't like the celebrity that this guy, what is his name, Tom Exotic, John Exotic, something exotic. I don't like the celebrity that he's getting right now because I do think he did something very bad, very harmful to these beautiful, majestic creatures. So, and also he did a very bad thing. He contracted a murder on someone. So this man does not deserve your attention, I think. So, are there cats in danger? Number two, and this is just as bad. Is this a show that is holding up people from the South to ridicule? Is this a show that is taking these people operating in Florida and elsewhere and kind of like holding them up as bumpkins, rednecks, hillbillies, white trash, or anything like that? Are they presenting the people from rural and poorer areas from the American South as something that we can just laugh at? I don't like that. I think that is cheap, ignoble, and very harmful. It's done to death. It was never really even that funny to begin with. Okay, so let me know: are the cats in danger? Do they show them in danger? And number two, are they holding up rural, poor people from the South up to ridicule? Okay, okay. Muhammad says you don't really see the cat suffering. Okay, so that's good. Now let me know whether they are presenting people from the South as just being silly, stupid, full, and all those kind of things. Because I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like the tendency we have here in the United States to hold up certain areas for ridicule, especially if they're being ridiculed for reasons that that we would look we look down on them for snobbish reasons, for elitist reasons, for classist reasons. That's not a good thing. Okay. All right. So let me know. Okay. So I think we should also take this as a opportunity to answer questions that you may have about the midterm for the ethics course or for the critical thinking course. Let me go over the topics being covered in the midterm once again. Let me pull up the one I have for uh, for ethics first. Okay, so remember that there are going to be multiple choice sections. So you can ask me questions about, say, the multiple choice section or the essay section. Say I can answer questions for both of those. Okay, so we are going to be doing questions about, say, cultural relativism, ethical subjectivism, ethical egoism, as well as psychological egoism, divine command theory, natural law theory, and utilitarianism. You know, would that I could include social contract theory because on our last day of regularly scheduled in-class lectures, that seemed to be kind of like going over pretty well. But then all of this happened. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions on those schools of ethical philosophy, and also let me know if you have any questions about the essay portion of the midterm for ethics. Now, going on to the critical thinking section, that is also going to have a multiple choice section as well, and that's going to be kind of like covering the basics that we discussed going up into this point. So, the basics about, say, of argument construction, the difference between form and content, the differences between inductive and deductive reasoning, the meanings of certain terms like validity, of inference, and other things, say what, the basic structure of an argument needs to entail, and also the biases and fallacies that we've covered up to example number 10 in the fallacy lectures. And so that's that goes up for the appeal to nature fallacy. That's the ad hominem fallacy, the genetic fallacy, the post hoc fallacy, the cherry picking fallacy, the what's another one that we had in there? What's another fallacy that we had in there? Circular reasoning. That's a big one. And so all the way up to red herring. So if you go down the lectures and you get to red herring will be the last one that we'll have questions on. So examples 1 through 10, as well as all 5 of the biases that we covered. the confirmation bias, the halo effect, apophenia, self-serving bias, and the framing effect bias. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions about those as well as the essay questions. Okay, thank you, Kenneth. Yeah, it's not like you shouldn't. It's not like it's you know that if you have say a person who's in a position of power, in a position of authority, and they're doing something silly, something stupid, and something harmful, it's perfectly fine to make fun of them. But when you have people who are not in a position of power, who who are dealing with say a very underfunded and very faulty educational system, when they don't have work, when they don't have say the even kind of like maybe even the basic nutritional needs met in the best way. Say why hold them up to ridicule? You don't like them because maybe politically they go in a certain direction. Well, look at say why they might do that. Look at say why they might be resentful towards other people in the United States. And I'm not talking about say kind of like racial resentment. If they're racist, they're wrong, and they have no excuse for being wrong. But if they're resentful for people in California, for major metropolitan areas as being say snooty and snobbish and who are looking down on them, well, they're perfectly right to be upset about that because that's what we do, and we shouldn't do that. I think that's un-American. I happen to think that's very un-American to do that. Yeah. So yeah, shouldn't make fun of people for that reason. If we're talking about like people in power who are abusing their power, who are having a detrimental effect on people, and that they're making very unwise decisions, make fun of them all you want. Make fun of them all you want, but don't make fun of people who are at the disadvantage. That's being a bully. A bully is a person who picks on someone not because that they are of equal or greater strength, but because they are of lesser strength, and because they believe they can get away with it. That's what being a bully is. So don't be a bully. Bullies aren't cool. Okay. All right. Alex says, as far as Tiger King goes, I don't think it targets a generalized group of people from the South as something to laugh at, but it does poke fun at its main subject. Okay. Okay. So this is good because this is what I was afraid of. I was worried that they might be using their main subjects as kind of representational of the people from the South, because I've seen that happen a number of times already in media, and it's not like you say you can't find say good comedic representations of it. Look at the movie Logan Lucky, which I thought was a splendid movie. It's by the same director who did the Ocean's 11 movies, and I think they're a lot better than Ocean's 11. Ocean's 11 are a bunch of about a bunch of arrogant pricks robbing a casino because they can. Say Logan Lucky, you do have say people who are say at the short end of the stick economically. They're getting it because say they're being picked on and being discarded because as far as other people are concerned they are discardable and ridiculous, so they're trying to get their own back. And you do have your kind of your redneck characters in there, but they're not being held up for ridicule for being rednecks. They're just kind of like funny in and of themselves. They're just funny characters. So there is a way of doing it, but there's a way of doing it without taking cheap shots at people. Because many times you pull these people up and it's just kind of like to get a good laugh. It's like, oh, look at that toothless hick. Oh boy, I say, I bet he can, that one remaining tooth. I bet he opens up his beer cans with that. So that's what I was worried about when it comes to Tiger King. So good to know that you don't see the animals suffering, because I think that itself is exploitative, and it's also good to not see say people from the South being held up for ridicule like that. So I'll check it out. I'll check it out because it is an interesting story. I don't know if this is still available on Netflix, but if you like true crime stories, watch a series called Evil Genius.
Evil Genius is about a woman caught up in several mysteries. One of them involves, say, a person robbing a bank with an explosive collar around her neck, and also a frozen body kept in their garage. So watch Evil Genius and see how this woman factors into both mysteries. It's a very, very fascinating and frightening series. It's you might not feel very good coming out of it, but it's worthwhile. It's worthwhile. Have you seen the movie Cats? I have not seen the movie Cats. Yeah, it's not don't have all that interest in it. There's a point in musical theater where I stopped paying attention, and I think that was say kind of like at the point where you have the rise of Stephen Sondheim and the rise of Andrew Lloyd Webber. And for reasons I still don't quite understand myself, I don't find much of what they've done appealing. Even Sweeney Todd. Sweeney Todd is very kind of hit and miss for me. There are some really lovely numbers in it, but when they start doing recitative, and recitative is say melodious talking. When they start doing that and start kind of like getting into opera territory, but not doing opera very well, then I start to really lose engagement with it. I don't know. Maybe they try to bring a certain kind of like gravitas to it. But the thing is to say when you listen or watch an opera that has recitative, say that's supposed to be kind of like the lighter moments, the more quippy and comedic moments in it. But for them, it's still the moments of the high drama. So I don't think they do it very well. Okay, okay. Is everything the in the mid? Uh, I think you're asking, say, whether everything in the midterm, whether everything in the midterm can be found in the lectures and the Rachel's book. This is the question from Kenneth. Kenneth was asking, say, is all you need my lectures and the Rachel's book? The answer is yes. Go look at the lectures because there are parts where I start talking about things departing from the Rachel's a little bit, but I think all the answers can still be found in the lectures. Excuse me, can still be found in the Rachel's. So I don't think I have any questions in there that you would not be able to answer without just looking at the Rachels. But I still advise you to look at the lectures as well, just in case maybe they sharpen a certain point that maybe the Rachels are making that I am agreeing with. I don't because you know that say I don't see eye to eye with the Rachels on everything, but I do believe that say everything I have in there should be say something that say the Rachels and I do agree on in the book. So I think you could do it with just the Rachels, but I would advise going back and forth between the two. Okay. Gabriel says Les Miserables was a horrible musical movie in my opinion. That seems to be general consensus. They got a person who can sing, um, Hugh Jackman. They got Hugh Jackman who can sing and can sing beautifully, and they got someone who well let's say that if Russell Crowe can sing, I don't think he can sing quite the way they sing in the Les Miserables musical. I mean, it's kind of like if, you know there are people who I think are very fine singers, very great singers, but it's always within a certain kind of sphere. Like operatic singers are not maybe the best people you want to have singing certain kinds of rock music. It might be kind of like an inappropriate voice for that, for some kinds of rock music. On the other hand, certain rock musicians would not be appropriate for singing opera, even though they have perfectly good voices for their own style of music. So whatever style Russell Crowe has when it comes to singing, it's not singing Les Miserables. You know, it would have been better if they casted Tom Waits to sing Javert than Russell Crowe. So I've not seen the movie myself, but I have seen a number of clips from it, and the say Russell Crowe singing is just atrocious in it. I saw Les Miserables on the stage, and that was a pretty effective musical. That was kind of like a more current, it's as current as I think the early '80s anyway, and I thought it was pretty damn good. Anything that can get me crying, is doing its job, and that musical can get me crying. And that credit going to say the composers, the lyricists, but also to Victor Hugo's story as well. Oh, did I get your quiz yet? Yes, I did get your quiz, Kenneth. And so you did not get my answers to that yet. I thought I sent you the answers, Kenneth, but I'll resend them. Let me write myself a little note to do that. Okay, Kenneth, resend quiz grade. I'm pretty sure I did that, but I'll send it again. I'll send it again. Make sure you get it, Kenneth. Okay. What do I prefer best, Daniel Craig in Logan Lucky or Knives Out? Logan Lucky. Logan Lucky. He's a very engaging character in Knives Out. He say when the movie stumbles, he still carries it for me. But I like his performance. It's an even more original kind of performance. We've heard Southern Gentlemen before, but rarely do we hear say Southern characters in movies who have kind of like not only a kind of like an edge to them, but also an intelligence to them as well. So it was a very much more of a new kind of character in recent cinema. We don't get too many characters like that. So I think he did a fantastic job with a new character in Logan Lucky, which is in every way a fantastic movie. I love Logan Lucky. I love stories of underdogs. Underdogs say triumphing against say the people who enjoy being at a level, an economic or social level above them. Okay. All right. Jennifer asked, for the philosophy essay I'm writing about Peter Singer, he's a utilitarian. Is it okay to write about utilitarianism as an ethical theory for the entire essay? Okay. So this is for the philosopher report, the report on say an ethical philosopher. And your question is it okay if I write utilitarianism as an ethical theory for the entire essay? I would say so, but be sure to because this would have to apply to Singer. Say when you bring in say possible criticism, say either from yourself or from other people, go after say not only maybe how he applies utilitarian ethics to animal issues, also consider how you might be able to kind of like criticize him as a critic of utilitarianism, whether utilitarianism might not be as strong or secure as perfect a theory as say you might assume if you're trying to extend it as a theory of animal rights, as Peter Singer is doing. So you can go one or two ways. You can or both. You could criticize his use of utilitarianism, or you can criticize him as a utilitarian. So you can do one or the other or both. Okay. So let me know if that let me know if that answers your question, Jennifer. All right. Gabriel says, for me, Daniel Craig got the movie started in Knives Out as well. Haven't seen Logan Lucky. Okay, yeah, no, yeah, he does a great performance in Knives Out, but do see Logan Lucky. Logan Lucky, I think, is in a better movie. It's a different kind of movie, and so it's kind of like comparing apples and oranges. But I do think that kind of like, and if we were just kind of like compared it on say overall strengths, of a well-made movie, say Logan Lucky is a better movie. Jennifer says yes, thank you. Well, very good, thank you. I'm glad that helped, Jennifer. Send any questions you have my way for the philosopher report project. And if anyone else has any questions about say the philosopher report project, don't forget we're still doing that. I didn't drop that, and I didn't drop the group project for the critical thinking class. You're just presenting it to me now as a written report rather than as a report that you present, as a performance, as a that you're standing up to that, because we can't do that right now. And while a number of you might be able to do it, say, yeah, through something like this, not everyone is able to do that. Not everyone is able to have the say the computers or the cameras or whatever they need to do something like that. So that is why we have to have it as a written report, because that is something that everyone can do. Okay. So does anyone have any other questions about the midterm? Oh, okay. Looks like Gabriel timed this perfectly. And their serious note, for our midterm in critical thinking class, do we just need our book or our notes? Yes, it is just the Vaughn book. It's just Vaughn's Power of Critical Thinking and the lecture notes. And you'll need the lecture notes more for the stuff about biases and fallacies, because that's where I start going off of the book. Also for the stuff on deduction and induction, because I think the stuff written in that book is more appropriate for just a class strictly on logic, on formal logic, than say something that we're trying to do for the critical thinking class, which is more applied logic. So it gets a little too technical, I think, for this class in the Vaughn book. So when it comes to deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning, the biases and the fallacies, my lecture notes will be more of a help. I don't contradict Vaughn in my lecture notes, but I kind of go, I kind of like, just kind of like, um, I go not in a different direction, because, like I said, there's no disagreement, but it's kind of like still more stuff kind of like explained in my way rather than Vaughn's way. So Vaughn is going to be very helpful for a lot of things, for the stuff about say form and content, about say parts of arguments and those kind of things. But say when we start to get into deductive and inductive reasoning and into biases and fallacies, then it's going to be more my lecture notes. Okay, so any other questions? Any other questions about, say, utilitarianism, about criticizing utilitarianism, about, does anyone kind of like need a refresher on any of the other schools of ethics that we've done so far, like subjectivism, egoism, cultural relativism, divine command theory, natural law theory, anything like that? Talk or any kind of like discussions about say the essay questions or anything like that, let me know. Let me know. Okay, so I'm going to be right back. Pardon me. I'm going to be right back. I'm going to get myself a drink of water, and I'll be back in just a sec. And since I've gotten up, I realize I now need to do the opposite of getting a drink of water. So I need to go take care of that, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. All right. So, anyone have any other questions? None as yet. Okay, so we still have about let's see here, 15 minutes for the of the class. Keep asking me, say, ethics questions, but like I said, I will always answer, say, a critical thinking question if it comes up. Okay, all right. And also, if you just want to talk about, say, how you're doing, or want to ask any questions about, say, what's going on in the world right now, um, let me know. Let me know. Or like I said, if you have any suggestions on, say, projects to keep us all sane during our quarantine, please suggestions in the chat section as well. Okay, we're doing knock on wood, but we're doing pretty good with the internet connection, unlike last time. Although this was about the point where it cut out last time, and I tried to jump back in, and it didn't work out all that successfully even on the second try. Okay. Um, since it was late in the conversation, how was your spring break? Spring break was pretty nice. It was pretty enjoyable. It's, of course, it would be even more enjoyable if say people weren't suffering and dying in a global pandemic. But just in terms of kind of like my personal feelings and all that kind of stuff, I was doing all right. Say, my family, thank heavens, are still safe and well. So none of my immediate friends have been affected yet. And I certainly hope that's the case with you guys as well. I hope that not only that you're all well, but your family's well, and that your friends are well. It's just you know, we just want to make sure that we can minimize the damage as much as we can, because you think this was as simple as can be. We just don't have the means yet to take care of people when they get these kind of things. We don't have a vaccine. All we can do is kind of like, to help them stay comfortable, try to manage the fever as best we can, and hope they survive. And you can fill up a hospital pretty quickly with people going through that. So, God, hubris, Sweden, hubris. This is what happens when, say, people get complacent and arrogant, and just entirely sure to say that that they can make the right call all the time. And it's especially the case if their arrogance and self-assuredness blinds them to their own problems. They can always just look elsewhere and say, well, at least we're better than such and such a country. At least we have universal health care while America does not. At least we've got a better educational system than Great Britain and those kind of things. If you have that kind of attitude, say, it's very, very likely that you're going to be unattentive to the problems that you still have. However well that you've actually been able to handle certain kinds of problems are always going to remain. That's just likely always going to be the case with human society. And say many problems do remain in Swedish society that they have been very, very poor at meeting, particularly when it comes to say new arrivals from non-white countries. Okay, sorry for going back on that, but get it together, Sweden. Okay. Um, Esmeralda says, also Netflix is Miracle Cell #7. It's a foreign film and will make you cry. Aww. Well, I'm always up for a movie that will make me cry. I was watching a movie the other day that makes me cry. All right, let me write this down. Miracle Cell #7. Miracle Cell #7. And is it a science fiction story, Esmeralda? Miracle Cell #7. Well, I think cell, of course. I think of biological cells, but say also maybe cell blocks. In prisons. So is it about biology or prisons or both, or neither? Okay, sound interesting title, and I'm always up for a good cry watching a movie. Say sometimes it's because it's so sad, or just because something has happened that's just so beautiful. And a movie that I watched recently that I think is just so beautiful is called The Lavender Hill Mob, and it's a movie that came out in England not long after the Second World War. I think it's either very late 40s or very early 50s. I can't remember which, but say it's shot in London, and you can still see parts of London that are leveled by the bombing. These are places that have just been just destroyed by the Blitz. And you can still see them in the background when they're shooting, say, stuff in and around, say, the London area, say just flattened areas or level areas are just full of rubble, because that's how London looked for a number of years right after the war. Okay, Esmeralda says it's a Turkish film and it takes place around the time of some army, or do you mean some war? It takes place during wartime. Okay, Kenneth says I'm praying for the end of the pandemic for the people who are infected for their full and complete recovery. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Say we need all the help we can get, and the efficacy of prayer can neither be proven nor disproven. And if that's all you can do it, just in case. Okay. Esmeralda says, I forgot the time frame. I would say it's just drama and a must see. Very heartwarming and make your heart drop. Oh, yeah, wartime. Okay. Okay. All right. So I will check that out. Okay. Yeah, there are a number of very good Turkish films I've seen recently. One of them was called Winter Sleep, and it's an adaptation of a Chekhov story. But it's a very long movie. It's something like maybe close to maybe 4 hours even. But it's always full of, say, something interesting or beautiful. And it's a very subtle and very moving movie about a man who wants to be regarded as, say, something as an authority in his community, as both a say a wise, powerful, moral, and upright man, and just how much around him manages to undermine, say, that kind of sense that he has about himself. So check out. I don't think Winter Sleep is available on Netflix now, but if you can find it and you've got a half a day to spare to watch a movie, open up a bottle of wine and just work your way down it. Okay. Okay. Kenneth says, I'm proof that prayer is effective. I'll say, I won't dispute that, Kenneth. I won't dispute that. You might be able to find, say, other competing explanations, but if you are here because of the power of prayer, then I'm very happy that someone prayed. Because, say, whatever the reason, Kenneth, I'm glad you are here. Okay. All right. As I said before, it's very important for me to kind of like not reveal what, if any, religious commitments that I have, but I will always be respectful of them, provided provided, say, it's not a death cult or something like that, of course. Okay, then I'm going to say no. It might not even be as holy as you think it is. Okay, thanks for that. You're welcome, Ken. You're always welcome for that. Okay. Okay. So let's see here. How are we doing for time? We're doing pretty good. So remember, we're going. So it's nearly 1 o'clock. We're going to be going to 2 o'clock, and beginning at the 1 o'clock hour, that's when we're going to be switching more over to focusing on critical thinking stuff. So, and also, if you are not able to ask your questions for ethics, stick around. Stick around into the second hour. Okay. Okay. So, any other questions? Any other burp? Any other things that we can talk about? Oh, sorry, just a little bit of that water coming back up. Anything else? Anything else? So I say, I'm prepared. I am prepared for these lulls in the conversation. Say, when these things comes up, say I've got myself a nice stack of books right here. I'm doing research on. See, I say you probably will just get the light from from the window. So let me show you what say the life of a philosopher often entails. Say it entails stacks and stacks of books. So let's see here. Let's see, stacking these things up right here. So this is what you have to deal with on a regular basis as a philosopher, and that's a nice big stack of books. Say these are going to be the backbone of whatever research that you're doing. Say you want to do say a lot of research from say contemporary, recently published material in journals and whatnot, but you also want to be as familiar as you can with say um, kind of like classics of secondary literature. And what is secondary literature? That's literature that is say commenting on a topic or a book, it could be a commentary on a major book, or it can be kind of like an essay on a general topic of philosophy. Say a book about say Hegel's idealism or about Marx's political philosophy. So things about those kind of things are called secondary literature. Primary literature, and that's what also the stack entails. Primary literature are, say, where an original idea is being advanced that is not just, say, commenting on, say, something that's come before. So, not a book about Marx's political philosophy, but a book by Marx, where he is outlining political philosophy. That's primary literature. So books like, say, what have we got here that is an example of that? So right here we have a classic by A.C. Ewing. It's his critical survey of idealism. So this would be considered secondary literature because it is, say, not really advancing, say, an original idea or argument about say a subject like here is my theory of time, here's my theory of the good, here is my theory of politics. This is more commenting and uh, critically exploring a topic covered by other philosophers. So this is a very good example of that for secondary literature. Here's an example of primary literature. This is J.N.E. McTaggart's The Nature of Existence. This is volume 2. Volume 1 is not as thick as this one, but it is still quite substantial. And so this is where the philosopher is outlining an original argument. He's not just commenting on what people have said before, and he's not just doing a survey of a general topic. He's advancing a new original theory. So this is an example of primary literature. So when you're a philosopher, you've got to go through a lot of both. You got to go through a lot of journal articles. You got to go through a lot of say book form, secondary and primary literature, and you got to take notes from these things. You got to read them, and you also have to take notes from them, and so that when you're making your own argument, you can say, I'm basing this off of say so and so making say this point against and so on. You got to show that you are familiar with the topic that you're dealing with, so that if someone might disagree with you, well, I can see where you're coming from. You're drawing your ideas from maybe Ewing's readings on Kant, but here's the problem with Ewing's reading on Kant. So it's a way to help people become more engaged with your own thinking. Okay. Let's see here. Alex says, I can't remember if you answered this, but what will the format location of our midterm be? Okay, so online. It is online. The midterm is online. I'm going to be emailing you the midterm. I will be having the midterm posted on Canvas, and just like the quizzes we've done so far, say you will be doing it on your own at home and emailing me the answers. And I've given you a few days on this. Say the midterm will be going out later today. Say after I've taken care of the lectures for today, I will send out the midterm, and you will have until the end of the 18th. So that is Saturday. So the end of Saturday, 11:59 p.m. Saturday night, is the final time to turn in the midterm answers to me. Okay, so you turn in the multiple choice answers very much the same way that you did for the quizzes. You do just kind of like the number of the question and the letter answer. So number one, A. Number two, C. Number three, A again. Number four, B, and so on. Then, when it comes to the essay answers, you can have the essay answers as an attachment, as kind of like a doc file or PDF, or you can just have it just written into the body of the email. So you email both of those to me at the same time. That's something I don't think I mentioned, so I'm not gonna be too strict. It's like someone sends me the multiple choice answers first, and then the essay responses say after that. But it all has to come in by 11:59 p.m. Saturday. And if anyone has any problem making that date, let me know. I should send out an email about that. I'll send out an email saying, that if anyone cannot make that date, let me know. Let me know as soon as you can, because past that date, past 11:59 p.m., I have considered the midterm late, and I will not be able to accept. Okay, so let me know if you can't turn it into me except at a later time. Okay, so Alex, let me know, Alexandria, let me know if that answers your question regarding that. Esmeralda says, "What's your favorite wine? I can show you what my favorite wine is. Be right back." Okay, so this is my favorite wine. This is 14 Hands. And this is actually a wine that I've discovered recently. Say as recent as just a few months ago, actually. But for me, this was kind of revelation. Say I more kind of like inclined toward like very strong flavors. Say I can't afford subtlety. Subtlety, that's for very expensive wines, and you've got to really develop your palate. Say from one expensive wine bottle to another. I can't afford that, but I can afford strong flavors. But this is, say, for its price, as close as I've been able to find to those very subtle kinds of wines, where the it kind of like more gradually reveals, say, different flavors, different kinds of aromas, and those kind of things. All those kind of things that wine snobs will bore you to tears talking about. Say, I've been able to actually find that in here, and say this 15 bucks. You know, I've never seen it priced above 20. So somewhere between the range of like 12 to 15 bucks, because I often see it on sale too. So this is very good. So this is from the Columbia Valley. This is a California wine. Hooray! And if you are of wine drinking age, I highly recommend getting a bottle of 14 Hands. And this is their Cabernet Sauvignon. They do other varietals. This is the only one I've had so far because I just wanted to kind of like enjoy this one as much as I can, and then I'll try some other ones. But I can attest to the quality of this. Well, I can at least attest my own enjoyment of it. I don't know if you guys are going to have the same experience. Everyone has their own taste. That's fine, and not a damn thing you can do about it except just veer off into a different direction if you can. And so yeah, so I recommend say getting a bottle of this. All right, Mervin, you are not 21 yet, but stay quarantined, stay safe, and you likely will be, and you'll be able to enjoy it. Or go on when travel is lifted, and if you've got some spare cash on hand, and I mean a considerable amount of spare cash, go to Europe. Go to Europe. The drinking age over there is 18 or younger over in Europe. So if you can, I know I can't. I don't have the money to go to Europe, but if you can and you don't want to wait, go on a little wine tour of Europe. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. There'll be plenty of people there to watch out over you. Okay. All right. Esmeralda said, try Cherry Pie 3, Vineyards Pinot Noir. So good, sadly a little pricey. Okay. Well, every now and then I've got enough saved up for a more expensive wine. Hey, go away, guys. Yeah, yeah. Let me write that down. Cherry Pie 3 Vineyards Pinot Noir. Cherry Pie. Ooh. I should drink that while watching Twin Peaks. Cherry Pie 3 Vineyards Pinot Noir. Okay, all right, very good. I'm not that much of a beer drinker, and beer puts me to sleep. Wine, on the other hand, say wine keeps me stimulated, keeps me happy, keeps me going. It's just a nice thing to have on hand. Yes, it will get you a little drunk. Getting a little drunk is okay sometimes. You say I've had bad experiences, really, 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 really drunk, but I've had some very, very good experiences mildly drunk. So getting mildly drunk, just as long as you're not driving, just as long as you're not outside causing a nuisance, not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. Okay. Does anyone else have any kind of like a drink recommendation? So it's mostly wine or whiskey for me. I do like a nice glass of whiskey now and again, and maybe now and again is a little too often for me. While you're young and able, enjoy these things because you get to my age, and I'm not really that old. I'm not really that old, but I am at that point where say I can't process the toxins quite as well I used to. So hangovers and just kind of like the debilitating effects of alcohol hit me harder than they did before. And I wonder if I'll get to the point like my father where he can't even drink whiskey anymore, pretty much. Ooh, what a cruel fate that would be. Okay. Little pricey, so I can do pricey stuff sometimes. Sometimes, it mostly goes to books. Book, uh, say academic literature is horrendously expensive. It's a terrible, terrible racket. They keep it pricey enough so that you need to have full time employment in a philosophy department to be able to afford it, and not all that often. Else it will go to a library. They keep it pricey enough so that pretty much only libraries and people with say regular substantial paychecks can afford a lot of this literature. So I got to get my stuff on the cheap mostly, but say you can still find say a lot of stuff. So like I see a book that I want to read, say in philosophy, and I've got to wait several years to read it because I need to wait for it to become used and put up for sale as a used book. Then I can afford it. I'll try that when I turn 21. Very good, Murph. Very, very good. You got something to work for. Okay. All right. What would you say is does anyone listen to is hard rock or heavy metal even a thing any longer? I don't know. I'm a sad old person. I'm an antique. I say I remember the day when all you had to do was just go down the record shop and there was your latest Judas Priest album and you were fine. I don't know who to listen to anymore. So let me know who is I don't know bands anymore. Are there still big bands like there was bands of great prominence before? I don't know. Okay. If you take a handful of B complex before drinking, you'll avoid the hangover. Good advice. Also Gatorade. Gatorade is a very good kind of like thing to keep you hydrated before you go to sleep. Drink plenty of water. Keep drinking water. Don't just replace that with Gatorade. But before you go to sleep, if you have some Gatorade on hand, drink that as well. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Kevin. Yeah, that is very helpful. Say B complex pill before drinking. You'll avoid a hangover. That is sound advice. Let me write that down too. B complex pill. Okay, we are in the 1 o'clock hour. So this is the time primarily critical thinking group. But as I said many times already, say if we still have people from the ethics course who were not able to get online earlier and have some questions or want to get into a discussion on certain things, say by all means do so. By the way, I should have encouraged this long ago when we started doing these things. But if you guys want to have kind of like a chat with each other, say in the chat section of the stream, please go ahead. I can jump in on certain things. So if you want to say, here's a conversation we just want to have with each other, go right ahead. I think that this is a good opportunity to do that. Honestly, all the bands nowadays are just gimmicks. I do see a lot of gimmicks out there. I do like darker metal. I like goth rock, say goth music and whatnot. So I see this band called uh, London After Midnight, which is named for a now lost silent film with Lon Chaney, and they got a great look for them, but their music sucks. And it's not like they have that bad of a sound. Actually, it's just their lyrics are atrocious, and that's true with a lot of bands recently. Right, I listen to them and they've got a good sound, but if I pay attention to the lyrics, it just falls to pieces. There are a lot of good songs out there that are good just in terms of the melody and the singing or the instrumentation. Don't listen to what they're saying. Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of gimmicky bands out there. Still some good ones, I want to say. Who is someone I well, here's the thing. This is the band I would say is my favorite current band, like the band that is still kind of like producing new albums, still going on the road and touring. It's not a rock band; it's a jazz band called Hazmat Modine. And I would say they're probably my favorite people still recording and touring right now of any genre of music. Um, there are some good contemporary classical composers too. Thomas Day being one. Um, okay, don't forget to resend the quiz score, please. Yes, I will, Kenneth. If I remember rightly, you did well on it. So I will resend it to you. All right. So anyone got any critical thinking questions? Questions about, say, the biases, about the framing effect bias, apophenia, about confirmation bias, about halo effect or self-serving bias, or about the fallacies? Does anyone need further examples of cherry picking, of red herring, circular reasoning, or anything like that? Yeah, no problem, Kenneth. Always happy to help because my inbox gets crowded pretty quickly, and so sometimes I know it's easy to lose things that are the little start or something like that, or put it on the pile somehow, and so you forget to come back to it later. Okay. Okay, here's an example. Let me know what fallacy this might fit. Here's an example that I think would be good for the situation that we're in right now. Oh, Kenneth. Kenneth is interested in the fallacies. You're not in my critical thinking class, Kenneth. Okay, but I'm still going to go over some of the fallacies. I'm going to do an example right now for my critical thinking class, and I want to say whoever's here, see if you can tell me which fallacy this would fit. So it's a fallacy we've covered, and I think it fits our current situation. That if you say to someone right now, I'm feeling pretty sad, I'm feeling pretty depressed, I feel pretty helpless, I feel just overall bad right now. And the person you say that to responds to you, well, a lot of people are feeling bad right now. Say we're going through a pretty bad situation. Say, it's not unusual. It's not unusual to feel bad. Say everyone's feeling pretty miserable. Their lives are on hold. Say, everyone's life is kind of on pause right now. Which fallacy would that be an example of? So ask yourself, say, did that person properly respond to what was being said to them? This person was trying to tell them, say, that they were feeling sad and that, how they were feeling. Did that person get the proper response? And if it was not the proper response, why wasn't it a proper response? Because I do think this is an illustration of one of the fallacies that we've covered so far. So see if you can give me a response to that. See if you can give me a response. So I'll give you a moment to think about it. Oh, no, no, no. Say, I'm feeling okay. This is just an example. This is just an example, Kevin. This is just an example of what if someone was feeling that way and they go to a friend, they're talking online, they're messaging each other, and the response they get back is that a lot of people are feeling bad right now. And since a lot of people are feeling bad right now, that will somehow tell you, respond to a kind of way to kind of like to give you a sense of why you must be feeling bad. So is that a proper kind of response? So it's not me that's feeling bad. It's a hypothetical person talking to another hypothetical person. So think back to the examples that we've gone through so far in fallacies. Think of a kind of fallacy that has to do with responding to someone where it seems on a certain kind of level like you're responding to them properly, where on maybe just a very superficial level that you are actually responding to what they're saying, to the topic that they're trying to discuss or trying to get across, but it's really getting at something else, that you're not actually talking about what they're talking about. Could it be the post hoc fallacy? I think I can see what you're thinking about, and it might actually apply. This might actually work better than say the one I have in mind. So the post hoc fallacy. Post hoc is where two things are going together closely in time, and you imagine that, say, because they are happening closely in time, the one thing must cause the other thing. So I think Esmeralda is thinking that because the coronavirus pandemic is happening right now, that must, and say you're also feeling bad, that must be the reason why you're feeling bad. But the one thing has to be causing the other thing. Okay, so I think that fits in a certain way with this, and that might actually be better than say what I'm thinking of. What I'm thinking of is red herring, because in red herring, what you're doing is instead of talking about what the person is talking about, you just go off on say something else that seems connected to you. You say because it's similar to what they're talking about, you'll talk about that instead. But you're not actually talking about the issue. In this case, the issue is, why they're feeling bad. Simply because they are feeling bad while other people are also feeling bad. That doesn't somehow kind of like answer the question, kind of like of whether you are whether you're feeling good or bad for, whether you are feeling bad for kind of like, for the right or wrong reasons. It's not really getting at your situation. It's treating your situation as if it's just like everyone else's situation, and that will somehow make it normal, or make it kind of like less important. It's kind of like a dismissive sort of response where you tell someone right now, I'm feeling pretty low, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling helpless, and they'll say, well, a lot of people are. So what? A lot of people feel that way. It's just you're just like everyone else right now. When you treat it where you make it seem like they're just like everyone else because of a similarity between, say, what one situation is and another situation, then you're not actually looking at the individual singular situation that they're dealing with. You're just treating it as if it's the same thing as something else. That's the red herring fallacy. But I think that maybe the way that I presented it, I think that Esmeralda latched onto something important, where my assumption is that you're feeling bad because of the coronavirus pandemic. The post hoc fallacy assumption, and then because you imagine that the one thing must be causing the other, then going into the red herring fallacy. So we're kind of like seeing how fallacies can get connected together. That because you imagine the one thing is causing the other thing because they're happening together closely in time, then you can dismiss it. You feel that you can just dismiss it. You say, well, you're nothing special. Everyone is sad right now. Who cares? If you treat it like that, then you've committed two fallacies. You've committed the post hoc fallacy. So good job, Esmeralda. You've committed the post hoc fallacy, and then you've committed the red herring fallacy. You assume that the one thing must be causing the other thing. Now you can treat that person's problem as if it's the same as everyone else's problem, and you'll dismiss. I can just say, that your problems are not really that important, and that kind of thing. Okay. Let's see here. Everyone says, because of the coronavirus going on, my wedding got postponed. Oh, I'm sorry, Esmeralda. Does that fit into the post hoc fallacy? Just so I understand the red herring, the difference in post hoc. Okay. So if, you know, if, you know, if I just say my wedding got postponed, and you know that the coronavirus is happening right now, and I think in my mind, well, it must have been because of coronavirus that the wedding got postponed. That is committing the post hoc fallacy because it's not actually looking at, say, what the reasons are for why the wedding got postponed. It's just making that kind of leap of inference. It's making that assumption because the one thing happened close in time with the other thing, that one thing must be causing it. So if I ask you, say, why was your wedding postponed? And you said, well, it's because the groom or the bride got sick, and not sick because of the coronavirus. They're sick with something else. So in this case, it wouldn't be because of the coronavirus that the wedding got postponed. It's just a coincidence that it got postponed at the same time as the coronavirus pandemic. But even if you said we are postponing it because no one can travel to the wedding. Say I can't even be in the same room with the bride or groom right now. Even if it is because of the coronavirus pandemic, simply assuming that it has to be the coronavirus pandemic without asking for reasons backing it up, without asking for evidence as to why the wedding is postponed, just making that assumption that it must be the coronavirus pandemic causing the wedding postponement, that is the post hoc fallacy. So I think in the case that you gave right now, let's say how post hoc can apply to me saying everyone is feeling the same way as you right now because of the coronavirus pandemic. You know, you're nothing special. Say that's me assuming that why you are feeling bad is for reasons of the coronavirus pandemic, but it could be for other reasons. It could be because maybe like me, maybe you have if you go through depressive episodes and say things can trigger these episodes that do not have anything to do with the current situation. You might have thought back to say something that happened to you in the past, and that kind of like is just triggering all the same feelings that you had before. So the situation is actually different. Your depression is not the same thing as people feeling bad and helpless because of the coronavirus pandemic. It's two different situations. You're feeling bad for these reasons, and other people are feeling bad for these other reasons. The only thing connecting to them is something very superficial, is the fact that you're both feeling bad, but you're feeling bad for different reasons. There are different cases that demand different treatments and solutions. It's not going to effectively make you feel better to know that other people are also feeling bad. The same as it would maybe if you were feeling bad because of the coronavirus pandemic, because then maybe you have a kind of like a sense of solidarity with people. But if you're feeling bad for other reasons, for reasons of maybe of habitual depression and so forth, that can actually make you feel worse. If you just tell a person, well, everyone's feeling bad right now, it can actually make you feel worse because one of the things that can really affect you negatively if you have depression is say that you can't really find ways of communicating your feelings, your anxieties, your feelings of helplessness and your feelings of hopelessness to other people because they'll misinterpret it. They'll say, well, I get depressed all the time too. You don't feel depression, you just feel stress sometimes. You just feel sad sometimes. That's not the same thing as going through a depressive episode. So the failure of communication can actually also be, something that can just kind of like, make you go deeper into depression. Okay, Esmeralda says, "Thank you. That makes a lot of sense." Oh, I hope so. I hope so. I often wonder because I never. It's as far as I'm concerned, it's never anyone else's fault but mine if something doesn't get across properly. I think I'm a pretty poor explainer because I'll start thinking one way and then say another idea comes. I gotta go leap over to that other idea, and maybe I'll come back to the first idea, but say I'm already kind of like switching tracks so often that you don't know what you don't know what train to follow. It's a shell game. It's a shell game of explanation. So I hopefully that comes across. Always ask me to try again if I don't succeed because it's not on you to understand me. It's on me to communicate to you. Okay. If I'm not succeeding, let me know. So I'll take that as a success, Esmeralda, because he said it was. But if you ever want me to say it again, a better way, a clearer way, make me try. That's my job. My job here is to do that. Okay, all right. So let me think of maybe another example of a fallacy. Okay, let me think. Someone said ad hominem as a possibility right here. Um, oh, maybe it was taken out. Okay, so let's talk about say ad hominem. Ad hominem is where you are attacking the person and not what they're trying to say. And I can see how there might be a kind of overlap between what we were just talking about right here, because if a person is being dismissive of someone else, not based on the substance of what they're saying, but how it resembles what they imagine, what the other person thinks is really going on. That can seem like ad hominem, and you can say, well, you silly, you of course you would do that. You're a silly guy. You always treat normal issues as if there are big issues. Now that is veering into the direction of ad hominem. Ad hominem is where you are attacking the person. Ad hominem is where you're calling names. Ad hominem is where you're making where you're trying to say, based on who that person is, based on what they do, that for those reasons we can disregard what they have to say. Uh, you know, don't listen to that guy. He's a drunk. That guy told me that I shouldn't drink, but that guy's the biggest drunk in the whole world. So why should I listen to him? That's ad hominem. That's more of a clear example of ad hominem. But I think in the situation that I was posing, you could still see how there might be some connection there because you are being dismissive of the person. Let's say I'm kind of like going into the reasons why you would be dismissive, and in this case, you're being dismissive for first maybe for the post hoc reason that you assume that the current situation must be causing the person's feelings of sadness, and then into the red herring fallacy of saying, well, because everyone is feeling sad because of coronavirus, then that must be why you're feeling sad too, and I can dismiss it because it's like these things, and therefore it must be. Um, uh, that's what I'm going to talk about instead. This will actually also be very much connected to another fallacy we're going to be doing after the midterm called faulty analogy. And faulty analogy is where you draw a connection between things based on a very superficial connection, and that makes it easy to dismiss something because of it. Like if I said something like, um, well, registering my guns with the government. That's like when, say, the Jews of Europe had to register with the Nazis so that they could be better controlled and later on sent off to concentration camps and later on death camps. So it's Nazi-ish if you want me to register my guns with the government. Okay, so the reason why we call that faulty analogy is because there really isn't a strong connection between the two things right there. Say, registering your guns with the government is for different reasons than, say, the Jews of Europe registering with the Nazis so that the population could be controlled that way. So it's drawing a very bad connection between the two things. Okay, well let me think of another example that we could do for the fallacy. Let's think here. Which other fallacy? Well, if you want, you can also suggest a fallacy. If you want to say, do genetic fallacy, or give me an example of circular reasoning. We can do that as well. So while I'm trying to think of an example, you can suggest a fallacy to get an example of. I actually had something forming in my head just a minute ago based off of what people were saying in the current pandemic. So I guess kind of lesson to be learned from my example for red herring is listen to people. Listen to people. If someone says I'm feeling sad right now, don't act as if like you already understand why they're feeling sad and you imagine, well, it's just because everyone else is, and you act kind of like dismissively because of that. You say, well, you're nothing special. Everyone's feeling sad right now. Deal with it. Okay. It might be for different reasons, and even if it is not for different reasons, you should not kind of like dismiss someone because they're feeling bad. Do something else. That's not really that say quite often that does not help the situation. That just makes them feel worse. Okay, so keep that in mind. Um, if you're feeling impatient yourself, say, well, I'll come back to you later. I'm feeling irritable because of the situation. You can always come back later and say, like, say, I can't deal with this right now. I'm feeling pretty irritable. Well, you can't always do that. You shouldn't always do that, but sometimes. Okay, what else? What else can we do for fallacy? Well, let me ask you this: can any of you give me an example of circular reasoning while I'm trying to think up a good example myself? So I'm going to try to come up with a good example of circular reasoning. And let's see if you can do the same. Okay, so try to think of circular reasoning examples. Okay, so circular reasoning, circular reasoning. Let's give a good example of that. Good example of circular reasoning. It's always difficult coming up with these things on the spot. Okay, circular reasoning. I keep thinking of an example of circular reasoning that I'm working through right now in phenomenology with a friend of mine. So that would not be appropriate for this context. I'm trying to think of this. Okay, all right. Because say I'm drawing a little bit blank right now, but let me give you an example of circular reasoning in a form that we're going to be looking at a little bit later on, called the no true Scotsman fallacy. And here's how the no true Scotsman fallacy works. Okay, so we've got two Scottish people. Say one of them is older and one of them is younger, and let's say that they're father and son. Okay, so we got father and son Scottish people. Father says, and here's the thing about Scottish people. Scottish people say a few of them wear kilts. Say, by the way, the kilt is not as old as you might think it is. If you watch the movie Braveheart, that takes place in medieval Scotland. No one wore a kilt in medieval Scotland. No one. Say William Wallace did not wear a kilt. His Scottish army did not wear a kilt. No one wore a kilt in medieval Scotland. But since the 16th century, so we're talking about, say, the Renaissance period, since the 16th century on through the 17th and the 18th, the kilt became very popular in Scotland because, say, wool, the processing, the manufacture of wool products became more available. You can't make a big damn kilt without a lot of wool. Only recently, in more modern history, that the kilt became popular, but it also became very much part of Scottish identity. And traditionally, you didn't wear anything underneath the kilt. And so here's Father Scotsman saying, no true Scotsman would ever wear anything underneath a kilt. No underwear, no panties, no nothing. And the Scotsman's son says, but Uncle Angus, he's a Scotsman and he wears underwear underneath his kilt. And the father says, well, say what I'm saying is no true Scotsman will wear underwear underneath the kilt. Okay, so what the no true Scotsman fallacy is that it is, say, an attempt to redefine, say, an initial premise, but say it's still kind of like redefine it in a way where you're already assuming the conclusion to already be proven to already be true. But instead of using evidence and reasons to support your conclusion that no Scotsman would wear a kilt, all you're saying is, well, that just shows it that they're not true Scotsmen. That's not providing anything new. That's not providing any reasons. That's not providing any evidence saying why Scotsmen would not wear underwear beneath the kilt, or why no true Scotsman will wear underwear beneath the kilt. It's not really supporting the conclusion in any way except through reassertion. And by just kind of like redefining it from being Scotsman to true Scotsman. Why does it seem like I have got something in my mustache right now? Okay. So again, this is an example where you assume the conclusion is already proved from the beginning. So let's use another example. In the amongst, I don't know whether this is still true for people who play video games, but say there's a lot of gatekeeping going on there's a lot of gatekeeping going on in the video game community. Where it says, you're not a true gamer, you're not a true fan, you don't actually love the medium, you don't actually love Nintendo or some bullshit like that, unless you do this and this and this and this. So you could say something like, no true gamer, so you can say no gamer would ever tolerate playing a game that has an easy mode on it. No gamer would ever, you know, uh, say the inclusion of an easy mode on something. You've got to get good to play it. And someone else could come over there. Well, my cousin, he plays a lot of video games. He plays games on easy mode sometimes, but also on very hard mode. He's one of the most skilled Metroid players I've ever seen. The other person come back and says, well, he's not a true gamer then, because no true gamer would ever allow themselves to play a game that included an easy mode. Okay, so again, we're not actually supporting why, say, you would not be a real gamer or not because of easy mode. You're just asserting it. You're just asserting it as if it's already been proven from the beginning. And since you're already assuming this at the beginning, you could say, well, that just means they're not a real gamer. Just like you could say, that person's not a real Scotsman. This person's not a real this or that. So that's a no true Scotsman fallacy. But it includes circular reasoning in it. It's an example of circular reasoning. Okay. Lots of people are getting sick, and that's because they don't take good care of themselves. Okay, so that I think Kenneth's given us an example of circular reasoning right there, and I can see how it's getting there, because it's not really telling me, say, what it means to get sick or why is it getting sick. It's just kind of like restating the same point again. Lots of people are getting sick, and that's because they don't take good care of themselves. You can say, lots of people are getting sick, and that's because they are their immune system is compromised. Well, that's the same thing as being sick. A lot of people are getting sick, and that's because a lot of people are having compromised immune systems. That's saying the same thing, just using different words. So again, that is just assuming from the beginning the conclusion. It has a conclusion built into the premises. And whatever kind of argument you do, whether it's deductive or inductive, the conclusion has to be saying something new. It has elements in it that you can find elsewhere in the argument, but it has to be, saying something that is not specifically already stated in the argument. An example I gave in the notes is, if I says, I know I have free will because I can make free decisions, and since I can make free decisions, then I've got free will. Well, you need a free will to make free decisions. So, asserting that you can make free decisions is pretty much the same thing as asserting that you have free will. One thing does not really add anything to prove the other thing. It's just kind of like reasserting what you already imagine to be true, what you already believe to be true from the very beginning. Just like from the very beginning, no true Scotsman wears anything underneath the kilt. No true gamer will play a game that has an easy mode on it. Okay. Esmeralda says, so you got to get ready for work. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Esmeralda. Hope to see you again soon. I know that Fridays are difficult for you, but if you can make it Friday, that'd be great. But if you're not, don't worry. We'll still be doing this on Tuesdays as well. Okay. Well, let me put the plug back in here. So have a very good day at work, Esmeralda. Stay safe. Stay well. Hopefully, no one wants to shake your hand. Okay. Let me get my cord back over here. Oh, here it is. Okay. How about this? What is the difference? No problem, Esmeralda. What is the difference between ad hominem and the genetic fallacy? They are very similar. As a matter of fact, you could say the genetic fallacy is a certain kind of ad hominem fallacy. Okay, so tell me what the difference is between them. Here's another question. Let's do the either or fallacy. Either or fallacy or black and white thinking, same thing. Say, In this fallacy, you're treating a situation as if you only have two possible alternatives, when in fact you have many. You say, you have to be either a Republican or a Democrat. Well, no, you can be an independent. You can be part of another party. You don't have to be just one or the other. There are other choices. There are other options. You are either a success or you're a failure. Well, no, no. Say most people are neither just complete successes or complete failures. They're a mixture of the two. Say when you say you're a success or a failure, you're going off of a very very narrow definition of what counts as a success or a failure. You're either a leader or you're a follower. Well, no, no. Again, it is more complex than that more often than not. Say, leaders often are leaders because that they are following, say, a certain kind of ideology or another leader. Say, and even followers, even people who say, I do this because I'm influenced by someone else, they can still use their own powers of judgment. They do not have to be just kind of like reduced to being sheep. So it's more often not much more complex than that. By the way, didn't you love that when, say, in high school and so forth, where it says, we're going to create the new leaders of tomorrow? Well, are you going to create the new followers too? And that, I imagine, say, leaders need followers. Unless we're all leaders, unless we're all leaders, we are all strong, independent thinkers. So that's an option, of course. It's going to make things a little bit more difficult, but there we are. Okay, so those are examples of the either or fallacy. But is it always an either or fallacy when I give you just two options? Is it always going to be a fallacy if I say it's either one thing or another thing? Can you think of any examples where you do only have the two alternatives? Because this is the thing. What we've been doing lately, say, in all the fallacies we've been looking at so far, we've been looking at informal fallacies. Now that means that, say, we've been looking at fallacies that have to do with not only, say, whether there is a formal problem in the reasoning, and there are formal problems, like in the post hoc fallacy. There is nothing to necessarily make it so that because the one thing follows the other thing in time, then the two must have a strong causal connection. There's nothing to make that necessarily so. It can be true. It can be the case that the one thing did cause the other thing to happen, but there isn't anything that had to make it so that it could have been otherwise. So that is a formal flaw in that thinking. But you can also find examples in these informal fallacies where we might have exceptions to the rule. And you can find some easy exceptions when it comes to the either or fallacy, because there are instances where you do just have two choices. So can anyone think of a situation where you only have two choices? It's either the one thing or the other. So see if you can come up with those examples. Because you can have exceptions to those in the either or fallacy. So there are going to be some cases where you do just have the two alternatives. So the either or fallacy does not apply to all instances where you only have just the two choices. It is an either or fallacy itself if you say, it's a fallacy if it applies all the time, or it would have to apply not at all. No, you can have something that is a fallacy because of the situation we're dealing with, like the situation that in many instances you have more than one alternative, more than just two alternatives. I never thought the phrase carried any weight in high school because I had no clue what could possibly happen in the future, or what would be needed in a future leader. If we're talking about, say, the leaders of the future, well, supposedly, say, we won't be dealing with the same situations now as we do then. So whatever we're preparing them for right now, who knows what we're instilling in them that would make them an effective leader for the future. It could be, say, it could be how we're following kind of like the program of leadership as it's already been established, but it could also be something entirely different. It could be something we don't expect at all to make a effective and good leader. Okay. Okay. So here's an example. Here's an example. We're running out of time. Okay. Mathematics, logic. When you play games, these are instances where you will wind up with just two alternatives. When you do a math problem, when you do some arithmetic, or you do some algebra, or something like that, say you either get the correct solution or you don't. When it comes to playing games, many games, not all of them, but many games have only just the two alternatives. You win the game or you lose the game. Just the two alternatives. If you follow the rules of the game and one person has more points than the other person, and it says, at the end of the game, if this person has, say, more points than the other person, that person wins. You either win or you lose in this case. Not everything is a you win or lose situation. Oftentimes it's much more complex than that. You have mixtures of winning or losing, or maybe sometimes you don't even know what counts as a win or counts as a loss, whether it should anyway. But in certain instances, you just have the two clear alternatives. In logic, say your argument, if you're doing a deductively, if you're dealing with a deductive argument, you either have a valid argument or an invalid argument. You either follow the proper rules of inference to prove the conclusion as being necessarily following from the premises, or you don't. So in some cases, following the rules of a game in say deductive reasoning in logic, and in say getting the right solution in a mathematical problem. So you have just the two alternatives. You can either live your Ken Goff. You can either say you can you can either live like Kenneth Goff, or you're a moron. Maybe Kenneth. Maybe. I want to say that we all have our better and lesser moments, and that might even include you. So you don't have to be a Ken Goff to always be a non-moron. So you can even be a Pat McHugh and sometimes not be a moron. So I want to say the evidence points to say it likely being say maybe sometimes we are rational and reasonable and wise, and sometimes we are not. It's never just to say you're either this or you're dumb. Sometimes it's just a matter of whether you are playing to your strengths, whether you are whether you are you're Steven Tyler singing for Aerosmith, or you are Russell Crowe singing Les Miserables. Are you in the right situation or are you not in the right situation? Okay, all right. Well, let's see here. I need to go a little bit longer to get the full 2 hours. I do have to make another bathroom break. So when I come back, please have a critical thinking question for me, if you can think of one. Say something maybe about the exam, something about the midterm, about anything. So I will be right back, and we will do the final 6 minutes of the stream. All right, be right back. Okay, I am back. All right, so does anyone have any questions at all for critical thinking? Or if anyone still has any ethics questions, I can answer that as well. Okay, so we'll just give you guys another minute. We may call it an early stream, just a matter of 4 minutes remaining. So let's see if I can get something within, say, this coming minute, anything at all. Let's see how long I can go without blinking. Yeah. Okay. No, let me try that again. I used to be very, very good. I can still outstare my niece, but she's getting better. Okay. Darn, did it again. All right. Last time. I'll keep it around the clock. Ah, darn. Oh, well, those days are gone, I guess. Okay, so we will call it a day on the stream. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy that we're able to do a more fulsome stream than last time. I'm glad we didn't have the technical issues as last time. Thank you. I hope all of you do very, very well. 35 seconds. Yeah, I used to be able to go minutes without blinking. Okay, so maybe that's a project I can work on. I'll try to get my blinking my non-blinking eyes back. Okay. Okay. So all the very best to you folks. Take care of yourselves. I hope you stay well and healthy. Let me know if you have any questions at all regarding midterm. Even when I have the midterm ELB, remember you can still ask me questions about it, just as long as I can't give, just as long as it's not the kind of question that would make me give you the answer. So I can always re-explain, say, a problem or question. And let's see here, I'm still working on grading your writing assignment. So remember, we've dropped the third writing assignment. I am right now grading the second one, and we will have the fourth and final one up soon. All right, bye-bye, Professor. Thank you very much, Gabriel. You take care of yourself. All of you take care of yourselves, and we'll get through this. We are farther along in this than when we started several weeks ago. So we're not done yet, but we've come this far, which I think is farther than a lot of us thought we would. So take heart. It's not the worst thing that will likely happen to us as a species. It's certainly not the worst thing that's happened to us so far. But of course, if it is going to affect, say, someone we're close to ourselves, that is still pretty bad. So make sure that we are still banding together to offer help, support as best we can. Okay. Ooh, look at that. We actually went over the 2-hour mark. All right. All right. So very good, folks. All right. All the very best, and see you next time. No, be seeing you.